जस्ट पंजाबी देखते हुए सारे व्यूअर्स ਨੂੰ ਮੇਰੇ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਹੋਸਟ ਆਸ਼ਮਿਤਾ। ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫਿਰ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਕਾਫੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਹੈਡਲਾਈਨਸ ਅੱਜ ਸੁਣਨ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲ ਰਹੀਆਂ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਵਾਸ਼ਿੰਗਟਨ ਡੀਸੀ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ। ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਡੀ ਹੈਡਲਾਈਨ ਅੱਜ ਸਵੇਰੇ ਹੀ ਜ਼ਰੂਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਨਿਊਜ਼ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੁਣੀ ਹੋਣੀ ਹੈ। ਨੈਂਸੀ ਪੈਲੋਸੀ has now officially the highest ranking official जो कि ताइवान ਦੀ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਵੇਲੇ। 1997 ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਅੱਜ ਤੱਕ ਇੰਨੀ ਵੱਡੀ ਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ US ਲਾਅ ਮੇਕਰ ਤਾਈਵਾਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ। ਐਂਡ ਨੈਂਸੀ ਪੈਲੋਸੀ ਦਾ ਜੋ ਟ੍ਰਿਪ ਸੀਗਾ ਇੰਨੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿ ਲਓ ਕੰਟਰੋਵਰਸੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਰਾਊਡਡ ਹੈ। ਇਨ ਫੈਕਟ ਇਫ ਯੂ ਲੁੱਕ ਐਟ ਸਮ ਆਫ ਦ ਹੈਡਲਾਈਨਸ, ਇੱਥੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਟ੍ਰਿਪ ਕਰਕੇ ਚਾਈਨਾ ਦੀ ਰਿਟੈਲੀਏਸ਼ਨ ਕੀ ਕੁਝ ਹੋਏਗੀ। ਇਨ ਫੈਕਟ ਨੈਂਸੀ ਪੈਲੋਸੀ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੀ ਤਾਈਵਾਨ ਲੈਂਡ ਕੀਤੇ, ਚਾਈਨਾ ਨੇ ਡਿਕਲੇਅਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਉਹ ਤਾਈਵਾਨ ਆਈਲੈਂਡ ਦੇ ਆਲੇ ਦੁਆਲੇ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਮਿਲਟਰੀ ਡਰਿਲਸ ਰੱਖਣਗੇ ਵਿਦ ਲਾਈਵ ਐਮੂਨੀਸ਼ਨ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਨਕਸ਼ਾ ਵੀ ਵੇਖ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਤਾਈਵਾਨ ਦਾ ਛੋਟਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਜੋ ਆਈਲੈਂਡ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਚਾਈਨਾ ਦੇ 80 ਮਾਈਲ ਮੇਨਲੈਂਡ ਚਾਈਨਾ ਤੋਂ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਜੋ ਰੈੱਡ ਬਾਕਸਿਸ ਹਨ ਉਹ ਸਾਰੀ ਮਿਲਟਰੀ ਡਰਿਲਸ ਚਾਈਨਾ ਨੇ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਅਨਾਊਂਸ ਕਰ ਦੀਆਂ। ਐਂਡ ਆਫ ਕੋਰਸ ਅਗਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਡਿਪਲੋਮੈਟਿਕ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਇਸ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖੋ, ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਬਾਈਡਨ ਦੇ ਵਾਈਟ ਹਾਊਸ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਈਵਨ ਦੋ ਇਹ ਕਿਹਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ that Nancy Pelosi is free to visit Taiwan in a separate but equal branch of government, ਕਿ ਉਹ ਆਪ ਦੀ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੂਰਾ ਅਧਿਕਾਰ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਦਾ। ਕਿ ਇਹ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਕੋਈ ਆਬਸਟੀਕਲ, ਕੋਈ ਅੜਚਨ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਬਾਈਡਨ ਤੇ ਚਾਈਨਾ ਦੇ ਜੋ ਆਲਰੇਡੀ ਟੈਂਸ ਰਿਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਹਨ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟ ਕਰੋਗੇ। ਇਨ ਫੈਕਟ ਇਸ ਚੀਜ਼ ਨੂੰ ਕਾਫੀ ਕਨਫਲਿਕਟਿੰਗ ਨੇਚਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੇਖਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਅੱਜ। ਬਟ ਆਫ ਕੋਰਸ ਇਟਸ ਟਿਊਜ਼ਡੇ ਐਂਡ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀ ਦਿਨ ਅੱਜ, ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਦਾ ਦਿਨ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੇਖ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਨਫੋਲਡ ਹੋਇਆ ਹੈ, ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਉਨ ਸਟੇਟਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੱਕ ਅਹਿਮੀਅਤ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸਵਿੰਗ ਸਟੇਟਸ, ਐਰੀਜ਼ੋਨਾ, ਕੈਨਜ਼ਸ, ਮਿਜ਼ੂਰੀ, ਇਹੋ ਜਿਹੀ ਸਟੇਟਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਜ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀਜ਼ ਰੱਖੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ। ਬਟ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀਜ਼ ਨਾ ਕਿ ਸਿਰਫ ਉਨ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਲਈ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਹਨ, ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀਜ਼ ਇਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਵੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੰਪੋਰਟੈਂਟ ਹਨ ਬਿਕਾਜ਼ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਹ ਵੇਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਟਰੰਪ, ਫਾਰਮਰ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਟਰੰਪ ਦਾ ਇਨਫਲੂਐਂਸ ਰਿਪਬਲਿਕਨ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਤੇ ਰਿਪਬਲਿਕਨ ਵੋਟਰਸ ਤੇ ਉਨ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟਸ ਉੱਤੇ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਜ਼ੋਰ ਹਲੇ ਵੀ ਅਜਮਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਜਿੱਤਣ ਲਈ। ਬਟ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਟਰੰਪ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਜ਼ੋਰ ਅਜਮਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਪਿਛਲੇ ਹਫਤੇ ਹੀ ਅਨਾਉਂਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਜੋ ਜਨਵਰੀ 6 ਵਾਸ਼ਿੰਗਟਨ ਡੀਸੀ ਤੇ ਅਟੈਕ, ਕੈਪੀਟਲ ਤੇ ਅਟੈਕ ਹੋਇਆ, ਉਸ ਇਨਵੈਸਟੀਗੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਆਫ ਜਸਟਿਸ ਅਫੀਸ਼ੀਅਲੀ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਟਰੰਪ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਕ੍ਰਿਮੀਨਲੀ ਇਨਵੈਸਟੀਗੇਟ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਸੋ ਇੱਕ ਪਾਸੇ ਤਾਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਟਰੰਪ ਆਪ ਦਾ ਜ਼ੋਰ ਅਜ਼ਮਾਉਣ ਦੀ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਵੱਖ ਸਟੇਟ ਪ੍ਰਾਇਮਰੀ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਹੈਡ ਆਫ ਦ ਨਵੰਬਰ ਮਿਡ ਟਰਮਸ। ਦੂਜੇ ਪਾਸੇ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਆਫ ਜਸਟਿਸ ਅਤੇ ਅਟਾਰਨੀ ਜਨਰਲ ਮੈਰਿਕ ਗਾਰਲੈਂਡ ਇਹ ਵੇਖ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਪ੍ਰੈਜ਼ੀਡੈਂਟ ਟਰੰਪ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਕ੍ਰਿਮੀਨਲ ਰੋਂਗ ਡੂਇੰਗ ਜਾਂ ਇਨਵੋਲਵਮੈਂਟ ਸੀਗੀ ਜਨਵਰੀ 6 ਦੇ ਅਟੈਕਸ ਵਿੱਚ। ਇਨ ਸਾਰੀ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਇੱਕ ਪ੍ਰੀਮੀਅਰ ਲੀਗਲ ਐਕਸਪਰਟ ਸਾਡੀ ਆਪਣੀ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਤੋਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜਿਆ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੱਜ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦੇ ਗੈਸਟ ਜੁਆਇਨਿੰਗ ਅਸ ਫਰਮ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਸਿਟੀ, ਮਿਸਟਰ ਰਵੀ ਬਤਰਾ। And I'd like to welcome to the program this evening Mr. Ravi Batra, renowned legal mind, diplomatic advisor, political maven, frequent contributor to various mainstream media sources. Mr. Batra, it's to have you join our program tonight. We have some big agenda items that we'd love to get your comment on. But first of all, welcome, Mudda.
Pleasure to be with you, and deepest and warmest regards to you, Mom Penny.
Thank you.
Very proud of Just Punjabi.
Thank you so much, Ravi ji. Ravi ji, the big news today coming out of DC is, of course, Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan, which was until speculated about. But this morning, there was footage of her officially landing in Taiwan, being greeted by a lot. Of course, China wasted no time at all in their condemnation of this visit. John Kirby obviously came on the airwaves and said, listen, Nancy Pelosi represents a government to the White House, and so we have no business in telling her where to go. But days ago, almost advocating for Pelosi's trip forward. Raviji, I'd love to get your comments on Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan and how it's playing out throughout the day today.
Thank you very much. First, let me just say this. None of us, anywhere on earth, none of us wants a war to start.
Right.
And if a war is already present. So every sane person does not like war and wants to, if they're there, to end it. With Nancy Pelosi, once she announced that she was going to go to Taiwan, entirely her right as a co-equal branch of government. She's a leader of that. She's equal to she's half, her and Chuck Schumer are, along with GOP leaders in the House. The four of them are equal to the President of the United States, okay? And so the co-branch of government, the House of Representatives, if the leader of that, the Speaker, wants to go, she's got every right to go. Now, a foreign government may like it, may not like it, that's okay. But if a foreign government says to the United States, you make sure that Nancy Pelosi doesn't come here, doesn't go to Taiwan. And if America agreed to those terms, we might as well change the flag on our country, because sovereignty is not defended by taking the oath. Sovereignty is defended by principles. Principles much more important than people. We're a nation of laws, not of men or women. So Nancy Pelosi was right to go. The editor of the Global Times, own paper of China, I often have Twitter arguments with him. And last week I was arguing with him that Joe Biden can't tell Nancy not to go. She has a right to go. She has an independent right. Her oath of the administration includes foreign policy. That's why with her, right behind her, is Greg, the chairman of Foreign Relations, who's a congressman from Queens, the distinguished gentleman from Queens.
Yes.
So when the moment it was announced and China pushed back, both officially, assumption, I was very offended by this because we are being, as a country, as a colleague. And if Nancy did not go, I said to President Joe Biden, let's stop freedom of navigation exercise in the South China Sea, disband the Quad and AUKUS, and let's get rid of the historic Indo-Pacific Command, which won against Imperial Japan. Because if any nation, it has nothing to do with loving China, it doesn't really matter, but if any nation can dictate to the United States, not free by definition.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
Had Nancy decided on her own to go, that's fine. But the moment there was opposition from China, she had to go. And so I raised the issue of co-equal branch of government. President can't tell her what to do. And so John Kerry adopted that. There is no other answer.
Right.
Our answer as an American, our fallback answer to every problem, back to our Constitution. It really is it's the thing that makes us smart and makes us special.
Visit Taiwan since 1997, when Newt Gingrich, then Speaker of the House, visited. The timing of her making this trip now.
Sure. So, and the person who helped them write that contract with America at that time is as Speaker of the House, a very dear friend of mine. I talked to John and I spoke to Newt, and while they were speaking. So, what this tells you is, whether it's in the 1990s or in 2022, America is the preeminent democracy, the oldest democracy in the world. India may be largest, but it's still a baby, 175 years old. So we are the oldest democracy, is based upon the Declaration of the Constitution. And whether you're a Republican speaker, Gingrich, 2 decades ago or 3 decades ago, depending on how you count your math, or a Democratic speaker, our love for democracy is bipartisan. And so our love of Taiwan is not in opposition to China, PRC versus ROC, but it's a democracy versus a controlled economy, which is the PRC. So of course we're going to champion, protect Taiwan. If we don't, we don't deserve the title of being number one. Okay, so we just, thank God we just passed this test that China threw in our way. It should never even have been a test. The fact that a test was put in our way is a temperature of our republic, and it's not good. It's a warning sign that we're in trouble, just like January 6th.
January 6th, you perfectly transitioned into the topic I wanted to get your comments on next. Ravi ji, you know, today is yet another primary Tuesday. Various states, swing states, really important ones, are voting on issues, but more importantly, they're voting on the influence and the hold of former President Trump on the Republican Party. But himself seems to be gripped by another pressing issue, the ongoing Jan 6th investigation. And the congressional hearings that have been taking place over the last few weeks. Just last week, it was announced that the Department of Justice had officially launched an investigation into President Trump's connection or criminality in the Jan 6th debacle in Washington, D.C. So I guess the big question for us here is, you know, I'd love to get your legal opinion on this. Merrick Garland has said that justice will be carried out at the DOJ, as is always the case, in a mythical fashion. But is there or is there not a conflict of interest by Merrick Garland pursuing a criminal investigation against former President Trump, especially in light of the political or not President Trump decides to run, irrespective of that? Do you feel that there's a conflict of interest here? What kind of Garland standing in with all this?
The favor of you've asked a lot of questions, but I want to start with the conflict of interest issue first. Merrick Garland is a member of the actual nobility that is in the United States. Democratic country, we don't have counts and barons and lords as they have in England. Being a nation aristocracy is enshrined in the rule of law. So now that doesn't mean we are. I've even had some of them arrested. But handcuffed. But the fact remains, best as a nation, as a republic, is enshrined in the rule of law. And Merrick Garland has integrity and honesty, and frankly, excellence as the former chief judge of the D.C. Court of Appeals. If you recall, before. The fact is that Attorney General Merrick Garland is not the lawyer for the President of the United States, lawyer for the United States of America. So Merrick Garland can be trusted 100% to make sure that the house that America is, whether it's Alaska or Hawaii included, and Samoa and Goa and so on, whatever, all of those are territories, and even in the Caribbean, all of that which is America. He will make sure that our roof doesn't leak. If it does, he'll send the repair people to take care of it. If somebody breaks down the door, as in corruption, he will have an investigation go on. For example, during Trump's time, Bill Barr's time, an investigation was. It's a new administration. Merrick Garland is the Attorney General. I have absolutely no doubt that he will not interfere in that investigation to do a favor for Joe Biden or for Hunter. I have no doubt he will not do that. Men are not for sale just because they hang out with each other. You know, I've cited often that during the years ago, about 100 years ago, 90 years ago, you know, FDR would play cards, you know, playing cards in the White House. And on Sunday, they would have a good time, play cards. Somebody would win, somebody lose, have a nice drink, would put on the robes and declare his laws unconstitutional.
Wow.
Our New Deal legislation kept going and was found unconstitutional on Monday by the people that were hanging out and having a drink or playing cards with. People of integrity who vote based upon integrity. Okay? Racism. It's a cancer of body politic today. People assume that just because you know somebody, all of a sudden you're going to do them a favor. This is a very corrupt way of thinking. And second, if he's allowing Joe Biden's kid, Hunter, to be corruption and influence peddling and tax crimes, can we not trust them to bipartisan and impartial with Donald Trump's problems? I mean, I want to tell you, for your audience, I'm a registered Democrat, but my party has left me, okay? You know, I didn't change the registration because then whatever I have to say would be heard as across the aisle. I don't want to do that. I'd rather say, if something's wrong in my family, I'd rather say it.
Right.
If somebody wants to say something to me, they can say it. So, but the fact remains that, I voted for him in 2016 because I could not and would not accept, like we know each other, family-wise, whatever, and Bill Clinton as well. But when the email issue came up, and who's now hanging out with Bradley Cooper, and, he should know better, okay? We ladder climbers are all over the place. First was Anthony Weiner, now Bradley. Anyway, so Huma Abedin, secret emails. Wrong. Second, Hillary allowed her housekeeper at home. Okay? I served on JCOB in New York State, the Anti-Corruption Commission, and nobody, because I was sworn to secrecy.
Right.
You either honor your oath or you don't. So I was not prepared to vote for
Raviji,
politics.
you're talking about honor and integrity, but honor and integrity, are tested by some big time challenges. And in the case of Merrick Garland, never in the so the country could heal and move forward. But here we are discussing the very real possibility of forward deliberately, slowly. What kind of challenges do you foresee that Attorney General Merrick Garland, a man of utmost integrity, may encounter in this endeavor? Okay,
so you've asked that one question. One, I want to just say to you that I divorced myself from Donald Trump on January 6th. No more use when the man born to protect and defend the Constitution wants to rape it with violence and get half of our country, as I voted for him, trusted him, and he brings them to Washington to attack the people's. This is not an argument to be made. It's case over. The man, as far as I'm concerned, we're done. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean everything he did while he was president was wrong. In fact, a lot of things he did was right. Okay? He was actually, for a very imperfect human being, he did a damn job as president. But when it came to his re-election, which he never expected to win, he expected to lose. That's why it was late in the game. But when he did what he did on January 6th, it was case over for him. Now, the problem we're having is Donald Trump is planning on rerunning, which is creating a very peculiar problem for America.
Right.
As a matter of constitutional policy, I'm not in favor of the current administration criminally prosecuting the prior president. Because if we do this once, every future president will fantasize in a constitutional pornographic way of doing another coup. Because if they've done something wrong, they won't want to leave.
Of course.
And we will be tampering with the peaceful transfer of power. Mm-hmm. So, but normally a president serves a term, runs for re-election, loses, as Donald Trump did, and they disappeared. George H.W. Bush ran once, got elected, said no new taxes. He passed tax increases. People didn't re-elect him. He didn't try to do a coup. Bill Clinton had all that surpluses he takes credit for. That's the Bush tax increases. It was POTUS 41 didn't come back.
Right.
Trump is coming back. So Trump, by coming back, is creating two problems for us. A, the only way to block him, because he wasn't impeached, I was in favor of him being impeached, and to remove him from ever running again, legally. Like if you take, for ethical violations, they go to the Commission of Official Conduct, and one of the things that happens is they get defrocked and they can never run again.
Right.
So Trump, unfortunately, is creating a problem bigger than him, because every future president is now going to say, wow, in America, a president can be prosecuted criminally after he leaves office. I shouldn't leave office.
And then all of a sudden you go from democracy to an autocracy because there is no, like you said, peaceful transfer of power. I mean, this is directly a challenge to the foundation that the American democracy is based on, the Constitution and how we conduct our elections. It's just kind of bizarre that this has to the country in such a way. The fervor around the big lie. Now, 2 years down the road, we are still seeing the impact of it in all of these primaries taking place. Raviji, I don't have too much time with you.
I want to take 1 minute with you.
Please.
I want to make a comment about the January 6th hearings.
Please.
Actually help unify the country. Instead, some smart but ill-advised Speaker Nancy Pelosi came up with an idea of hiring a Hollywood executive producer to produce the J6 hearings. So they took away the spontaneity, what happens in a bedroom. You know, someone's mom is pre-packaged, it's plastic. Right. So all this powerful stuff that's coming out, right, because it lacks authenticity, right, even though it's authentic. And so, unfortunately, the Select Committee, which has done a great job, and I adore Liz Cheney just for this act, and other things, but for this, she's a hero. Like Mike Pence is the hero, right, constitutional hero, frankly, on January 6th. Right. So unfortunately, we remain a divided nation. And if how are we the United States of America? So we need to heal, and I highly recommend to the Attorney General of the United States not to prosecute Donald Trump.
Wow.
Because it'll create a big cancer, wow, of constitutional proportions for the next 200 years. We may not be a republic if we do this.
Wow. Well, Just Punjabi viewers just got a very special treat. They heard it here first from Mr. Ravi Batra himself, straight to the Attorney General. Do not prosecute Trump if we are to move forward, which I feel that the country desperately needs to do, especially as the midterms approach. Mr. Ravi Batra, thank you so much for the various insights you shared with us and some behind the scenes information as well that we were lucky to get out of you today. Thank you for taking the time, and we do hope you'll come back and share some more wisdom with us in the future. We will all certainly need it. Have a good rest of your night, Mr. Ravi Batra. Sat Sri Akal.
Thank you. Sat Sri Akal.